Hello everyone. In this video I'm going to show you how I took this photo and created that photo. Now I'm not going to go through every step in nauseating detail because it'll make this video quite a long video, but we will go through some of the steps and you can see what I did. So the first thing, obviously, with this one is I'm going to hit auto to change the just to automatically tone the photo, which is what I've done there. Now let's look at what we've got with this photo, and so I can just talk about the things that we need to go through here. Obviously, it needs straightening, and the second thing it needs is we need to do something with that sky. So in Lightroom, I'm just going to scroll down to transform and I'm going to hit auto, and when you hit auto it will do that. Now in here obviously we've got some triangles where, as a result of rotating it and maintaining the same aspect ratio, it's left us with some space we need to fill in, and we'll do that in a moment when we take this over into Photoshop. The next thing I did was I actually cropped it. I wanted to get rid of that obelisk that's here. That wasn't actually helping my vision for the photo. Now my vision for this photo was to make this kind of well, to coin a phrase, a dark and stormy night, and give it a bit of a horror type feel. So at this point we fire this over into Photoshop, and I will do this part just to show you my steps at filling in these triangles. Okay. So let's just bring that other photo to the front. Here we go. And all I did on here was I used the magic wand tool and I just selected the blank area. Then I would go into select, modify, expand by about 5 pixels. And by expanding the selected area by 5 pixels, it will just pick up part of the original image. Which then means when I go into edit and fill, and I will change my contents to content aware, it just does a better match and it doesn't leave any artifacts around. So I just basically did that on each of the areas here. Let's just deselect everything and then we'll do that again. Edit. In fact, I have an action for it, so we'll just use my action and we'll do that one down there. There we go, and that's all I did on that. So you select the area, expand it by 5 or 6 pixels, and then I just go into edit and choose fill and content aware. Now notice in here we do have a different fill in here. We have a content aware fill. So if we go back a couple of steps, we go to edit, content aware fill. This allows me to choose an area, which in fact it's done for me. You can see the area that it's selecting from is painted green in here. If there's bits in here I don't want, I just unpaint it. Can you unpaint it? You remove it. And let's just get rid of push you over, thank you. And if you want to include different areas, we can just click on plus and we can say, right, let's include that. And that will actually then give me a different fill. I find that, well, we'll say OK to this one so you can see what the effect is. And what that does is that puts this onto another copy, onto another layer, which is fine to a degree, but you know, I just prefer to do it the other way. I find it gives me a better match. So let's get rid of you. Okay. So this is the photo that we're going to work on. So let me just go down and we'll switch everything off. So this gives me the photo with those corners filled in. Then selecting the bottom layer there, I went into edit, sky replacement, and by happy coincidence it chose my sky. Just let this finish working, and there we go. And then I just flipped it because I wanted this tree here on the right hand side. just to help balance the photo out, and then we'll just move this around. Maybe we'll adjust the scale as well, which is here. Like so, just to bring that tree in on the right, which actually helps then act as a kind of a book stop. And then we'll just say OK to that, and this then creates my my sky replacement, and that is really all there is to doing a sky replacement inside Photoshop. Now there's a couple of artifacts around this tree that you might be able to see, you know, around here. If we just zoom in a bit and then just scroll over, there's a couple of artifacts around there that we can see. I'm not going to worry about it because by the time I finished off doing what I'm going to do in a moment, it's just not going to be that obvious. The next thing I did, at that point I then cloned out, let's just zoom in again, I cloned out most of the graffiti. There's a few bits I didn't quite catch, but that's okay, at least it's not as in your face as it was previously. But the downside is it does make the wall down here just that little bit brighter than the rest of the castle. So what I did was I added a brightness and contrast layer, and I've just darkened that wall down. Notice how in here this now gets a little bit darker, and then we put a black mask on it, so it's just clicking on the white mask which is there and inverting it with a Control I on the PC or Command I on the Mac, and then just painting with a white brush around where I want the effect to apply. So that's got that distraction done. Then what I wanted to do was to darken the overall tone. Remember, this is supposed to have a kind of a dark and stormy night type feel. So the next thing I did was I put a gradient layer on here, but I changed the shape, the style to diamond, and I chose grey 13 as my colour, which gives me a solid colour all the way across the image. And you might be able to see in the center there we've got a kind of a diamond shape. That's where the mask is at its not the mask, that's where the effect is at its densest. Then I changed the blend mode to linear light and dropped the fill down to around 40%, which is darkening the castle quite nicely. But it's also darkening the sky, which I don't want the sky to be quite that dark. So then it's just a question of selecting a brush, making sure we're painting, it's a white mask, we're going to paint with a black brush, and then I just drop my flow down to around 20% or so. And then it's just a question of, on the mask, let's just make sure we've got the right brush, there we go. And it's just then a question of just masking out the areas where I don't want that effect to apply. This area is already quite dark, so let's just paint over that a few times just to make that a little bit darker. And then it's just a question of doing that, making sure I don't go over the castle, because that's where I want the effect to apply. Okay, let's get rid of that because we've already got one of those layers. And then I felt that I wanted to darken the overall image, so that again, that's just another brightness and contrast layer, and I just pulled the brightness down a bit just to darken the overall image. Remember, what I'm trying to do here is to try and create a dark and stormy night. Well, we're getting it dark, which is the first thing. Okay, now I wanted to give this kind of a Dracula or a Frankenstein castle type of feel to this. I had already remembered or thought in my mind I'm going to add lightning to this. So what I wanted to do was just to put or illuminate one of the windows. And if it's going to be kind of a horror type thing, then we're just going to illuminate this window up here, just to make it look a little bit brighter. So that's just a question of adding a new empty layer, and then with a white brush let's do this. So the white brush, let's make the size a little bit smaller, and I'm going to zoom in a bit so you can see what's going on. And then we're just going to paint in here with that white brush. If we zoom out, we've got the light there, but of course it should have a bit of a glow, and so I'm just going to go into blending options. So just right click on the layer and choose blending options, or you can go into FX and we'll choose outer glow. That will do the same thing. And then, you know, yes, all I'm going to do in here is change the color in here to white, and let's just make that a little bit brighter, and that gives me my outer glow in there. I did a little bit more work, and what I'll do is I'll let you have the TIFF so you can have a play around with it and see in a little bit more detail what I did. But essentially that's all I've done. Okay, let's get rid of you. Now the next thing I did was to add the rain. Now after doing a little bit of googling around to see how you create rain, I actually created an action for it. So I'm just going to click on my rain action, go into, press Ctrl T because I'm going to rotate this. At the moment the rain is falling straight down, and so all I'm going to do is just rotate this so it looks like it's coming in from the side, and then we just resize this just to get rid of these artifacts right at the edge, and that helps then complete that illusion. Accept that, and there we go, we get the rain coming in from top left, and we can switch some of these things off. So I might switch off the specular highlights, and I can play around with this to my heart's content, but that's basically all I did, was to add rain, and that's given me my rain effect on this photo. And the last thing I wanted to do was to add lightning. Okay, so I'm going to show you briefly how you can fake a lightning bolt. The best way to do this is to get a photograph of lightning and then just create a brush from one of the bolts. But if you haven't got any photos with lightning in, then the best way, or one way to do this, is we're going to create a new document, 500 by 500 pixels, and we're going to change the background color to black. I'll say OK to that. Let's make you a little bit bigger. Then we go to Filter, Render, Difference Clouds. And then we go to Filter, Render, Difference Clouds again. Now if you look carefully, we've got these kind of worm-like features in here. If I go into levels on this and we pull down the midpoint, and we'll pull down the whites, then we've got features in here such as this part here, which looks kind of like a lightning bolt, or maybe this part in here looks kind of like one. And so all we do is you select the lasso selection tool, and we'll just draw a selection around the point, around the area we're going to use. We'll cut that out, and we will create a new document. We'll paste it in there. In fact, what we'll do is we'll create a new document, but we'll use white as the background. 500 by 500 white as the background. We paste that in there, and there's the basis for our lightning bolt. And we can cut out on this photo different parts of this. So let's deselect that, and maybe we'll select this bit in here. We'll go up to the window and we'll paste that in. And then we can move this just to connect the joins. And then we can select other bits and pieces out of it just to add the fault lightning. Or if you've got a photo with lightning in it, you can, as I say, you can just cut out the lightning from that, or you can cut out bits of the lightning just to make something unique. And then it's just a question of saying edit, define brush preset. And so that's how I created my lightning. So on this photo, what we've got is lightning in here. So the first thing I did was there we go, is I added my lightning in, and I needed a glow to it just to make the lightning look effective. So to do this, we went into effects, outer glow, and I just put a blue color in there, a palish blue. Set my opacity down to about 60%. Push my size up to 144. I don't think those are the defaults. Well, the opacity definitely isn't. Can't remember on the size. And that just puts a bluish glow around it. And just to make it stand out a bit more, I just simply duplicated the layer. Didn't do anything else, just duplicated it. But that puts all of the interest is on the right hand side of the photo. So to just balance this up a little bit, I just put a bit of lightning in on the left hand side. But notice how this goes down behind the tree. So to make this work, all I did was I went back to the original photo here and I created some luminosity masks. And I chose one of those luminosity masks, which then went onto that layer. Then the final thing that we need to do is to add this glow to the lightning where it's coming out of the sky. If we go off and Google lightning photos, if I could spell it, lightning photos, there we go, and we look at some of these images. And let's look at this one here, because this looks like the sort of thing that we're after. Notice how where the lightning bolt is coming from, we have this kind of bright glow here, which is the source of the lightning. And so we're going to try and replicate that. So I'm going to choose white as my foreground colour, and we'll choose a soft brush, so a soft round brush. We size it to roughly the size that we want. But we don't, obviously we don't want this round, so we need to change it from being a circular brush. The way you do this is by going to the brush settings button, which is here next to where you choose your brush and the size of it. Click on that, and this gives us some settings that we can change. The one I'm interested in is this one here inside this square, where we have this circle with two dots, top and bottom, and an arrow pointing off to the right. Now, if I click on one of these dots, I can distort the shape of the brush to make it more elliptical. And if I click on the arrow, I can then actually rotate the direction that ellipse is going. Well, I don't want to change the direction. Keeping it horizontal is fine. Let me drop my flow down to around 20% or so. And then, let's just get rid of you. And then it's just a question of clicking, just to make it denser and look like that. And of course, if you decide you want to just change the size just to further improve the flow, then you can do so. And it's as simple as that. That's all you need to do, is to create that bright part in there which is the source of the lightning. Let's get rid of that. Okay. So that's all the work done inside Photoshop. There's still something I want to do to this though. I don't like the green in there. The green is a bit overpowering. Yes, I could put a saturation layer on here and desaturate it, but there's an easier way for me to do this inside Lightroom. Let's go back to Lightroom. And all I did on here is in the basic panel, we've got the profile. by default, the profile for this would be color, which is how it would come in from Photoshop. And I just played around with this, and I just tried going through some of these artistic profiles, and the one I settled on was Artistic 3, which just changes the colours basically of the greens to more of an autumnal feel, and it actually just tones the castle slightly. I don't mind toning the castle, I have no problem with that. If it was raining, you might get some more of those reds which are inherent in the rocks there anyway, coming out, so I'm not too dismayed with that. And that's how I created this photo. It really is just as straightforward and as simple as that. There you go. One castle from here to here.